a landscape with our Brightview. Is that what you all have?
Yes, we can see it.
Perfect, perfect. All right, let me move it into presentation mode and we'll get rolling. So for everybody on the call, so I'm Alex Rabel. I am one of our directors of talent acquisition. And, you know, a lot of what we do, at least the fun part of my job, is I get to interact with universities and colleges within the states that we support and serve and try to find great people and bring them here to our organization. So today, we'd love to make it as interactive as possible for the folks that are on the call. I know I got a few students on live right now. So you all know, we're going to go through a high level on who we are and what we do. And then also, certainly you can stop us at any time if you have questions about anything that I talk about today or anything that you'd like clarification on. Also, I will have my contact information here as well as I think I can get you Chaz and Henley's information if you have any questions. But yeah, we'll go ahead and get started. So Brightview, so we were started, it was back in 2014. So we are now coming up on 7 years, and we are an addiction treatment organization. So we specialize in all forms of SUD, so substance use disorder, but I would tell you the lion's share of what we support is due to the opioid pandemic. Or so if you've got, I don't know how much you all remember before COVID came around, but this kind of was the story in the healthcare space. So, and it's only, gotten worse. So we are a growing organization. I say that there's some somber undertones in that we have a highly underserved patient population. So taking you all back to around the end of 2019, we had about 12 locations. And now, as of today, with a merger, with 2 sites that merged, we're sitting at 36 locations across Ohio and Kentucky. So if you're looking at the slide, it talks about, we have a 24/7 access line for our patients. They are available to schedule online through our website. Also, they can reach out to our patient services, call center. Another thing that's unique about Brightview is we allow walk-ins, which is very rare for the addiction treatment space. Usually you have to have an appointment. We will take walk-ins until 3 p.m. We will also, even if they walk in after, we'll see them. We may not necessarily be able to get the medicine that day outside of comfort medication, but we will have them, see someone, at least talk to a provider, and we will try to get them set up for the next day. So we do both in-person and virtual care. So we were doing telemedicine before COVID came around. We've beefed up our offering in that regard substantially, and we're also seeing a lot of our patients like the increased access. So definitely something that we will be doing more of. We have our providers able to see people across different locations. So if there's not a nurse practitioner or a doctor available at a location, we have an internal system where we can send a chat request out and say, hey, who's available can see this patient? And we're able to see those people. Our wait time right now is under 10 minutes. So if we get a request, we can see those patients within 10 minutes over telehealth. So another thing about us that's unique, all Ohio insurances are accepted through us, and we will still see patients if they don't have insurance. So one of my other colleagues just joined. So Jake is the other director of talent acquisition. So you might hear him chime in from time to time. But other unique things about us, we do transportation assistance. So we will get people an Uber or a Lyft to help them make their first appointment with us. So when patients come in who are battling addiction, we will find a way to get them to their day 1 and day 2 is what you'll hear it called internally for us, but it's them essentially getting set up with Brightview for treatment. So they will spend a full day with us on day 1 and then about a half day on day 2. So we will get them seen by a doctor. We will get them seen on the clinical track, which is our counseling side and what you would maybe traditionally think of as therapy. So they kind of run the gamut. We attack it from both a medical side and a clinical side here at Brightview. So again, pretty, you'll see or hear the term MAT, which is medication assisted treatment. And, we primarily use Suboxone is what we work with. So I don't know how familiar the students are, the people on the call are with what we do in the addiction therapy space or addiction treatment space. But I think a lot of people have heard about methadone sites and methadone clinics. We have one facility, which is up in Mason, that does use methadone, but primarily we are on Suboxone for our patients. Outside of that, again, we really try to focus on patient experience. We want to make sure that we make it as easy as possible for our folks to get the help that they're seeking and that they're looking for. So treatment on demand, we see people, no wait list. As I mentioned before, we do walk-ins. We try to find a way to meet our people where they're at. So it's one of the things that, there's a high intrinsic value to what we do. We make a difference in all the communities that we serve. And that's kind of just a snapshot of who we are and what we do. So moving on, again, serving people, saving lives. This is kind of one of our sayings and one of our logos you'll see throughout our facilities. But we do have, we have our staff, almost all of our clinical staff is certified to administer Narcan. So we've had, in the last few months, we have a Shining Bright program for our employees, which is a recognition program. And we had a person, and Jake, I don't know if you remember which site it was. I think it was Morgan, where they were able to administer Narcan and save a person's life that was going through an overdose. So
yeah, there's another one in the Columbus market as well.
Yeah, so it's pretty exciting stuff that you'll see out at our clinic sites. So here's a quick snapshot over our locations. So again, our first location was actually in Norwood, Ohio, which that site is actually no longer active. We ended up relocating. So we're heavily focused in the Cincinnati area where we're headquartered. But as you can see, we've made our way across the state of Ohio. And then I will also show you here in a moment, I will show you where we're at in Kentucky. So what's closest to you all will probably be our Nicholasville location. So this shows you kind of our growth in Kentucky. Again, it's still a newer frontier for us. But we will be expanding across the state and trying to find those areas where we can increase our patient reach and try to help as many people as possible. So again, down by where you guys are in Danville, Nicholasville is probably the closest one. I don't know if Chaz or Henley would correct me. I believe that's closer than what London would be to where you all are. But yeah, these are kind of our locations throughout the state, and there will be more popping up here in the probably next 6 to 12 months. So that gives you a bit of a snapshot. You will see those later in the slide as well. But that gives you, like I said, so right now we're in Ohio and Kentucky. We are looking at another state here by the end of the year, which will be over on the eastern side of the United States, and always looking to expand our patient reach and impact these underserved communities from an addiction perspective. So this is a little bit more about the what I talked to you about before in terms of how we handle the medicine side of our treatment. So again, the opioid, what we're going through from an opioid crisis standpoint has been, it certainly is heavily rooted in Ohio and Kentucky. It's, a lot of states are experiencing it. We try to take a unique approach in that we pair the clinical and therapy side along with what we do on the medical side to try to make sure that we have a successful recovery for these folks. And one of the other thing that I'll mention that is unique about Brightview is maybe some of you on the call have heard about like a 3 strikes and you're out policy. A lot of centers have a more punitive approach, and we are not that way at all. We are all about harm reduction. We are going to see patients, meet them where they're at, find a way to get them treatment and help. And if they have a relapse or have an issue, we aren't kicking them out of the program. Other facilities will require 6 months of sobriety or things of that nature, and that's just not the way that we approach it. We want to help them and find a way. So when you hear harm reduction, maybe some of you have heard about like syringe exchanges and things of that nature. It's kind of, how can we move them further down the spectrum? So think of it in that a person who's using and is using heroin and using needles, the fact that they're wanting to make sure that they have a clean needle, they probably have a little bit of a regard for their health. So we see that as, all right, that's a positive. How can we kind of plant the seed of recovery and start to water that seed and get them therapy and treatment? So harm reduction as a concept is still relatively new in some states. It's been around for a while. Our chief clinical officer is Dr. Nav Kang, and you could maybe search him and see different videos that he's done interviews for PBS, and he wins awards all over the place. But he really speaks about harm reduction and how it's effective and how it helps people who are battling addiction and substance use disorder. So definitely something that is pretty exciting and interesting. So if you have any questions there at all or anything about Matt or our medical treatment, please certainly, feel free to chime in. But outside of that, before I let, our center alums take over, are there any questions for me about the high level overview of Brightview or anything you'd like to know more about from, a company standpoint? All right, well then I will go ahead and turn things over to Henley and Chaz. So gentlemen, if you want to just let me know when you want me to move your slides along, we'll go ahead and go from there.
Chaz, I think you're muted.
I still got you on mute, Chaz.
What about now?
There you go, we're good.
Awesome, back in action. All right, so yeah, thanks for that high level summary, Alex. So Henley and I just want to go over kind of our experience and kind of the side that we sit in. So we sit in the corporate office and do a lot of the analytics work. So just want to give you some more detailed perspective on what our experience here as Brightview has been like since leaving center, and just give you some sense of kind of the day-to-day if our side of the business is something you're interested in. So I graduated from center back in 2018 and was fortunate enough to find Brightview as an opportunity back when we were still super small. Back when I started in November of 2018, we only had 6 centers. And like Alex said earlier, across the past 2 years, we've grown to, 30 plus centers now. So it's been a really exciting experience to be a part of. First job out of college, kind of hit the jackpot with this one. Not only is it awesome to be a part of a small, rapidly growing business because I feel like I'm having a kind of direct impact on the decision-making process and the stuff as far as like the company goes. But also, our mission is making such a significant impact on the communities that we serve. It's just been a really rewarding experience to be a part of. I could not sing Brightview's praises high enough. So my role here is a financial analyst. So I work for the finance department. So a lot of my role is kind of like data management, calculating, tracking, forecasting, performance metrics for kind of every department. Being that we're a healthcare company, most of our focus is on patient care and not as much on financials. So a lot of as opposed to some other finance jobs, I focus more on my day-to-day as, patient-facing metrics. And then as long as we're providing patients with the best care, that kind of trickles down into the finances. So, my day-to-day is more tracking general data, general patient engagement metrics. And then once kind of the month end rolls around, calculating revenue, and then consolidating the financial information for kind of our senior leadership, the board of directors, to make sure all of that is in there. So it's a great way to get a full view of kind of a good business that's successfully growing. Again, unfortunately, the demand is very high for the services we provide, but it's a great place to sit to get the full perspective and work with some of the upper level management and hear how they're thinking about the business and stuff like that. So a more micro kind of look at what I do. It's kind of like a 2-stage process here on the finance team. First, we start with kind of goal setting. So looking at specifically finance side, it's, using historical information to forecast what our finances look like. for the upcoming year. And then on the more daily and weekly stuff, it's using historical data to see where we're at so we can implement changes and like operational initiatives to make sure our patients are getting improved care as much as possible. And then once we help senior leadership set those goals, being on the back end, tracking our progress on our operational initiatives, and measuring their success in whatever way we can. So that's a little bit about what I do. There's a lot of overlap with just general analytics from the finance team, which we'll go over later. So with that, I'll pass it over to Henley to talk more about his experience.
Thanks, Chaz. Alex, if you want to, go to the next one. Great, thanks. So it's great to be on this call with you guys. Looking forward to building out the center pipeline here at Brightview. So my specific role is with the development team. So similar to Chaz, Brightview is my first job out of college. I graduated in May of 2019, was fortunate enough to know Chaz at Center, so was able to use him as both a reference and a resource to join the Brightview team. Seemed like a really good opportunity at the time, and I'm really, really happy with what I've been able to do and help with so far. So it's been great. So there are two sort of main goals for the development team. The first is to increase access to our treatment. So that involves identifying new markets that need our services. The second goal is to drive new patient volume. So we want to make people aware of Brightview, who we are, what we do, what we're all about. So those are the two main goals for the development team. There are two major umbrellas under Brightview development. So two main teams. The first is the outreach team. So that team is sort of our boots on the ground. They are in the markets where we have locations, building relationships with community agencies, other healthcare providers, court systems, and even other addiction treatment providers to make them, aware of Brightview. If they come in contact with someone that they may think would benefit from our services, we like to have Brightview top of mind so that they can provide them Brightview's phone number and our information to seek treatment. The second sort of larger team within development is marketing, and that's exactly what it sounds like. Our marketing team produces all of the patient-facing and provider-facing materials to talk about Brightview, explain who we are and what we do. They also try to expand and optimize our digital footprint. It's as Alex mentioned, we've increased access to virtual services through COVID, and that process is much easier and more accessible when patients can easily find us on Google, find our locations, and that sort of thing. So as both Alex and Chaz mentioned, since April of 2019, we've grown over 300%, and the rest of this year, we plan to extend our services into Kentucky, and I would say within the next between 6 and 12 or 18 months, you will probably see Brightview expand across the region even more into another state or two. So that's a little bit about the development team in general. Specifically, my role is a business development analyst. So that is that's just a fancy way of saying support the development team in any way possible. So I help manage the systems that our outreach and marketing teams use to track their relationships with referral partners, help them optimize those relationships to get new patients in the door. Of course, it's good for us. It's good for us when we have new patients, but it kind of goes both ways. We want we want anyone that is seeking treatment to be able to, to get that treatment. So in addition to managing data and systems, I also try to identify new markets and further to locate viable real estate assets. If you go on our website, you can see pictures and video walkthroughs of our Brightview locations. We have a very high standard and a specific model for what we expect Brightviews to look like. They're very, very professional looking doctor's office is kind of a good way to visualize it. And similar to Chaz, I also just provide general analytical support for our exec team and the board of directors. So any questions that are top of mind for the team kind of get funneled down to Chaz, myself, and the broader analytics team, and we help answer those questions and drive operational change with the business. So I think, Alex, if you want to go to the next slide, Chaz and I are just going to talk more broadly about Brightview's analytics team.
Yeah, so we've been really trying to expand out our analytics team in general. With a rapidly growing business, providing database guidance to all the different levels of management to make sure that people aren't falling through the crack. It's easy when with this rapid expansion, sometimes you miss things. So we're doing the best we can to flesh out our team to be able to make that happen as little as possible, to make sure everyone's getting the care they need. So just for example, like we've grown our team 100% in the past 3 months to try to support all the growth that we're trying to do and that we're currently seeing. But our main role, like I said, is to support basically every part of the business and be able to give them the data, to let them know what's going on from a data perspective, so that they can use that to facilitate their decision-making processes and be able to execute effective kind of operational changes in whatever department is, whether it's providing clinical staff with information about, how long patients and how often patients are engaging with clinical services, providing medical providers with, what's the average risk case for their patients, so they can provide the best care possible. And then also, from my seat, looking at financial stuff month over month, year over year, from Henley's seat, looking at potential new markets to go after and help the patients there. So, our analytics team in general has a broad-reaching kind of subject matter. So in the future, as we look to build out the team more, there'll be opportunities for more specialization. Like, if you're not interested in development or finance, focusing more on the clinical aspect, nursing aspect, medical aspect, giving comprehensive care results in a lot of departments that need support, and we're here to do that. So I'll let Henley talk a little bit about the system specifically that we use.
Yeah, thanks, Chaz. So I think one thing that I was kind of surprised by, but also really excited about when I started Brightview, was that we're not just using one system, if you will, one data warehouse. We work with a lot of different systems to gather data, organize data, view it in different ways, distribute it to the teams, help teams, track their progress, track their relationships with other healthcare agencies and things like that. So I think Center definitely helped me just be able to be flexible and kind of learn on the fly, which is something that Chaz will talk a little bit about later. But it's been exciting to kind of have to learn a new system, see what information is in there, how you can extract it, look at it in different ways, how how some things may be really useful for a team and other things not so useful. And adding on to that, the more you're involved in a system, the more questions you'll get, and I guess kind of the more trust you'll build with the exec team. So it's been exciting to kind of be at the forefront of growing our business and using a lot of different systems to drive operational change.
Yeah, and as far as kind of like our goal from at least Henley and my perspective for this meeting is to hopefully getting some connections with center students and gauge interest on both potential internship opportunities and career opportunities down the line. We're looking to have a lot of analysts in the future and help support both. That can help support our team and have our analyst team, help support, develop the skills of, center students in general. Big part of that is, from Henley's and my experience, learning that center's kind of learning model fits really well in a rapidly growing business like us. Some of our most important skills that you need to be successful in our analytics sphere is kind of flexibility and learning things on the fly. Not only is it a new business, but kind of a newer industry. So, constantly asking new questions, looking at things from different perspectives and being able to learn about them quickly. And then, organization is obviously big in any company or in any job, but here especially because we're bouncing around between different projects, constantly have different and new questions. That's going to be like the #1 priority here. And then something that I know Center specifically helps us with is teamwork and communication. I'm always shocked coming out into the real world, hearing how little other undergrad programs require presentations compared to Center. So, teamwork and communication is super important because we're constantly, as an analytics team, working with every leadership team, every department head to constantly get the information that they need and working with them as a team. So that's where we're sitting as an analytics team. That's where Henley and I sit. So that's kind of the background on that, but I'll pass it back to Alex to talk more about other opportunities at Brightview if analytics isn't necessarily what you're looking for.
Yeah, thanks, fellas. So real quick, before I move on to the next slide, and I might need to do a crash course at Center so I can get my presentation skills up. But you guys kind of both touched on, the executive team and your interaction with them. I think it's a very unique opportunity at Brightview. Could you kind of speak or expand a little bit more upon your access to them and what it's like working with them? And maybe, I don't want to put, words in your mouth, but how approachable they are and receptive to feedback. Would you guys touch on that for me?
Yeah, absolutely. Henry, you want to start off?
Yeah, sure thing. So obviously Brightview being my first job out of college, I don't have too much experience as to what other companies may be like, but I think Brightview is definitely an exception in that we talk to the exec team on a daily basis. And it's not just Chaz and I getting questions, putting an analysis together and sending it out. We're having discussions with them, trying to help them look at the data in certain ways to help them drive decisions. So it's very much a back and forth conversation for us. And yeah, I think just the access to not just the C-suite executive team, but vice presidents of departments, other leadership is really great exposure, especially in a rapid growing business.
Yeah, to give a little more color to that, because we're such a small company and the analytics team supports kind of like the entire company, we have direct access to the C-suite on a daily basis. I mean, we sit in an office with all of them. So like the CFO, CEO, Chief Clinical Officer, Nav, that Alex mentioned earlier, Henley's second direct report is the Chief Development Officer. So we're constantly getting feedback and to work with them. And they're some of the smartest people I've personally ever met. So it's really great getting to hear how they think about things, how they think about patient care, how they think about growing a business and all that. And beyond that, they're just some of the most genuine people. Honestly, I mean, these are people who took the risk to start a business to help people. So that alone speaks a lot to their character and how great they are, not only to work with, but just be around as individuals.
Perfect. Thanks so much for sharing, guys. And I mean, to echo what they said, so I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, we kind of have 3 rules at Brightview. So I keep talking about Dr. Nav Kang, but this is kind of something that he presents to all of our new hires around the 3 rules. And really what governs us is the first one is just answer the phone. And what that means is whether it's a patient, whether it's a coworker, pick up the phone, be responsive. So make sure that you're there for your coworkers, make sure that we're there for our patients. It's really, it sounds like a small and simple thing, but you'd be surprised how much further you can go in your relationships with your patients and your coworkers if you're just answering the phone and being responsive. The second one is just be kind to others. And, it's the golden rule, right? So treat others the way you would want to be treated. And again, it's not anything that's groundbreaking, but it makes a difference if you treat others the way you want to be treated and you treat others with respect. So the third piece is follow the science. So everything we do is rooted in science, which is rare actually for our space, believe it or not. But everything we do is rooted in science, from Dr. Ryan and Dr. Nav, and what Chad has put in front of us is all around following the science for addiction. So I mentioned those things because the first one I think is particularly relevant to what Chaz and Henley just mentioned around how accessible and easy it is to work with our C-suite. They live these values every day. And when I say answer the phone, or, I can certainly attest to just calling them on their cell phone or walking into their office when I'm over at the other location. It's amazing how much and how passionate they are about what we do. So I would also be remiss if I didn't mention, one of the reasons we're talking to you all is Henley and Chaz have been phenomenal. So I hear from everyone that interacts with them, like, we need to find, more of them. So it's a testament to your organization, your university, and your college, that we want to be a part and build on this partnership. So they're phenomenal. We want to find more people just like them. So this leads me into our next piece. So you'll see, hopefully you guys can see just a word bubble. So this was created. So this is every title that we have here at Brightview. So this is Brightview specific. This is not something we just ripped off of the internet. So you will see all the different job titles that we have here in town. So we talk about, finance and economics and the analytics piece and what, the backgrounds of both Henley and Chaz, but we hire people across the board. We hire people from the clinical track. We hire people from social work, from nursing. I mean, it really does run a gamut. So don't think that just because you may not be in the same major specialty that they were in, that it's not, Brightview doesn't have a home for you. So just in the month of March, we hired over 80 people. And right now we're averaging 15 to 20, 25 hires a week. So we are growing at a rapid pace and always looking for great people that can come in and be a part of our team. So I always like to highlight that because I think it's unique that we have so many different areas. And if there's any that you have particular questions about, please don't hesitate to reach out or stop me in the middle of this presentation. But my last piece, and then we'll open things up for questions, would be around, our partnership that I alluded to early. So the majors that I have listed here, I kind of went through and combed, what you guys have on your website around, different ones that we've hired for across universities. So these are things that are common to us and things that we are looking for. Again, does not mean these are the only things we're hiring for, but these are ones that definitely stood out. So if you have questions or if there's a specialty, I need to make sure I add nursing to the slide for the next time we go through here, but please reach out. So best ways to get involved with us, certainly reach out, Chaz, Henley. I can send a follow-up to them with your contact information. I know Brianna would probably be able to get that out to the students or make sure that there's a spot on our profile with them in Handshake so they know who to reach out to. But visit our careers page. So all those things that were in that word bubble, we have those up on our website. You can check out the jobs that we have that we hire for. Certainly something to look at. You know, you heard Chaz and Henley talk about internships. We are always happy to do our part and bring people to the organization and get you exposure, see what our environment's like, see if you like it. And then the other thing I would also add in is a mentorship program. So we've done this with a couple of other universities, in that it's not as formalized as an internship, but we have an outpour from our team members and our management. They love to foster and teach and, you know, just interact with students and explain, like, hey, here's what the day-to-day looks like for a director of talent acquisition. Here's what the day-to-day looks like for an operations director. And that's more like a cup of coffee or a Zoom, and let's touch base, and how are your studies going? What are you interested in doing? These are all things that we can offer up and really kind of expand upon with students that are either entering, you know, their junior year, senior year, or they're graduating. So that's my email that's there on the slide. It's just a.rabel@brightviewhealth.com. I believe, you know, without looking, I think Chaz and Henley's, I will get those out to you so I don't misquote what their addresses are. But that kind of concludes the prepared slides. So I'll open it up. I don't know how many folks we have on right now, but if there's any questions, and again, please feel free to ask Chaz or Henley, since they were sitting in your seat not too long ago, but we will open it up for questions now. All right, well, I know I saw a couple students, so if we must have done a good job, gentlemen. So I think we may have answered all their questions, but Brianna, is there anything else you want us to cover? Is there anything else that we can go into for you?
I think you guys did a wonderful job. Maddie or Sierra, do you guys have any questions for them before we jump off here?
No, ma'am.
Okay, great. Well, it sounds like you guys did a good job covering everything then.
All right, perfect.
But
Well,
like
no,
you said, yeah, but I was just want to remind Sierra and Maddie, like you said, that you all are posting on Handshake, correct? Like any position.
yes, we have. So I will follow up with you on that as
Perfect.
well, because I think our last one, for whatever reason, didn't make it to your site. So I will follow up with you offline. But
Okay.
otherwise, I really, again, Chaz, Henley, thank you so much for being a part of this. It is always a lot better to listen to you two talk than hear myself talk. So thank you both. And thanks for having us, Brianna. We really appreciate it.
Yeah.
You know, Maddie
Thank
and
you.
Sierra, thank you for attending.
Thank you all.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much. We really appreciate it.
Yeah,
Take
thank
care.
you.
Yeah.
Yeah, have a great rest of your
Good
day.
Bye.
Bye-bye.